welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about 2013's Man of Steel and its 4K Blu-ray. But before we dive into that, if you are a fan of movie reviews, 4K Blu-ray reviews, some tech and game reviews along the way, and we do podcasts. Now, if you're a fan of all that, then this is the channel for you. Nothing helps this channel out more than by you simply liking this video and subscribing to the channel. So Man of Steel was released in 2013, directed by Snyder, and this time, Clark Kent, Kal-El, Superman himself was played by Henry Cavill, and also featured in this film are Lawrence Fishburne, Amy Adams, Michael Shannon, and Russell Crowe, amongst many other great actors that appear in this film. And this film came out in the summer of 2013. I remember back in 2012 seeing The Dark Knight Rises in theater and seeing the trailer for this movie, and I, at the time, was not excited. I've told you guys before, I was never a Superman fan, and I saw this trailer and I was like, oh, so they're making a Superman movie in the vein of these Christopher Nolan Batman movies, in the sense that we're going for a real dark tone. We have to deal with the fact that Superman, how he would deal with being Superman here living on Earth. He's not really, it's going for that really more serious Zack Snyder tone that we're used to, combining that with the Christopher Nolan tone. And the movie itself just looked darker. We had that Hans Zimmer score now replacing the John Williams score that we all loved and knew. And speaking of Hans Zimmer really did change the scores for summer blockbusters, really starting with Inception. Once we got that boom, scores changed, and we started to shift away from those, like, you know, big, loud orchestra scores, and we started to go for that more epic, atmospheric scores that we kind of still have to this day. But back in the early 2000s, we were getting these in every summer blockbuster. Everybody was imitating what Hans Zimmer had captured, but still, Hans Zimmer was the king of these types of scores, and the score for this film actually really does fit the tone of this movie, which is a darker Superman tone. They even changed the entire color palette of this movie. It's more of a Zack Snyder looking film in the sense that it's a lot cooler, darker, flatter. You know, the colors don't really pop off your screen. Even Superman's clothes don't really pop off your screen. His suit is just much more of a flat-looking suit. Superman himself, played by Henry Cavill, he's a little bit more of a darker character. He's having a hard time living on this earth. At the very opening of this movie, it's very similar to the original Superman movie in the sense we get to see the fall of Krypton, the exact same opening almost as Superman. You know, we see General Zod and his minions being sentenced. We get to flesh out General Zod more. This is actually like a combination of the first two Superman movies. You know, General Zod, we do see him at the very beginning of the first Superman movie, but his arc doesn't get completed until the second one. This time we get his full arc, and this is actually a villain you can more relate to. He really does care about Krypton. It'd be like, consider like the rebels rebelling against the government today. That's basically what was happening on Krypton. It just turns out that Michael Shannon, I guess he turned out to be right in this sense, but I mean, he wanted the best for Krypton as well. But Jor-El knew. He knew that this planet was coming to an end, and he sends his son off to Earth. And then once, you know, we see Krypton explode and everything like that, and it's over, and we see Kal-El, or the future Clark Kent, get to Earth, that's when the story becomes more of a non-linear story. We get to see what he's been up to. He doesn't join the Daily Planet like in the other Superman movies. He's kind of just out there just doing regular jobs until he just can't take that job anymore, or he's about to be caught, because that was one big thing. Kevin Costner plays his father in this movie. Diane Lane plays his mother in this movie, and I think they are much better parents than what we got in the original Superman movies. Both characters are fleshed out. Diane Lane obviously would play a bigger part in the DCEU going forward after this movie.
Why did you say that name? Martha, why did you say that name?
But Kevin Costner, in his one small role as Clark's father, is phenomenal. I thought he did a great job. He's probably the best version of Superman's dad. I mean, his death, it leaves a lot to be desired. I get that what he was trying to do was protect his son, because once he is revealed to be Superman, that's it. The rest of the world is going to look at him different, and that's what this movie's dealing with. How would we deal with Superman coming to Earth? Or in this case, it's also comparing like what would happen if God came to Earth. That's what Superman's kind of representing. Somebody that we know can save the planet, but he is so strong and almighty that it scares us. And that's what this film is dealing with mostly, is what would happen if this actually happened to us. But because we get a supervillain in General Zod showing up, we need Superman to save this planet. And unfortunately, yes, I do think that this is the best Superman movie in my opinion. I think it's the best, I think it's the best made. It looks beautiful. The effects, obviously, that was a big issue with the 70s and 80s Superman, is the effects. I think from a film standpoint, I still think that Superman 2, the Donner cut, is the better Superman film and the best Superman film we ever got. And it's just because this movie is 2/3 perfect, 10 out of 10. Then the final third of this movie, it does kind of fall into that blockbuster feel where we get this gigantic action sequence where we barely take any breaks in there to let ourselves breathe. It just destruction and destroying Earth. And I remember at the time people were pissed, and they actually commented this on Captain America Civil War, and then in Batman vs Superman, like them destroying the Earth, like that was a big controversy. Oh, they got to be more safer. But think about it, if two aliens were living here on Earth, this planet would be destroyed. I actually think that they held back in the sense, yes, Metropolis gets just annihilated on a lot of Earth, but that's probably what would happen if two humans, well, actually, they're not even humans, if two aliens came to this planet and they couldn't be killed, the only person that can kill is them. They can only kill each other, and that's it. The rest of us are just here to watch the fight. Yeah, the planet is going to get pretty damn messed up. And then I also remember at the time people were upset about the very end of this movie, which I will not spoil. But I think it did make sense in the sense that Superman had to do what he had to do, or else more destruction and more innocent lives would have been taken. So I didn't mind that decision. I'm also not a big comic book guy, so I don't know how people feel about that. I judge comic book heroes based on their performances in film. I'm a film fan first. I don't really go back and get wrapped up in the lore of these heroes. I only get wrapped up in the lore that's on my screen, so I only judge things based on the film and comparing it to how they're portrayed in other films. So I was just comparing Superman to the Superman I knew from the 70s and 80s, and I always forget about Superman Returns. So when I was comparing the two, I didn't mind it. I felt like everything that Henry Cavill did in this movie fit the tone of this Superman movie. Is it my favorite Superman movie ever? No, it's not, but it's still an amazing blockbuster. I still think it's actually a fantastic film. My love for this movie grows every time I rewatch it. It has some great scenes. I just wish that they would have kind of allowed more time for the story to develop with Henry Cavill, Superman, Clark Kent, and dealing with all that before we get that just big third act action sequence that I felt like went way too long. I'm just not a big fan of these big third act action sequences that have just become the norm for any superhero movie, whether it be Marvel, DC, or any other one at that. You know, I would like something a little bit different. I think actually Doctor Strange did this really good, is like, you know, it doesn't have to end in this big, brutal destruction of the Earth. I think we could do a little bit more than that, but this was the king of it at the time. But that's not to take away from this. This is still a great Superman movie, and if you haven't seen Man of Steel, I highly recommend it. And we're also here today to talk about its 4K Blu-ray.
How do you find someone who has spent a lifetime covering his tracks?
So I got here the 2016 4K Blu-ray that came out for Man of Steel, and I guess this is one of the earlier 4K Blu-rays. I actually didn't pick this up until about 2018, so I was very fortunate that I got a slipcover with this. And if you pop that off, that nice reflective slipcover, I guess, what do they call that? I'm not actually too sure, but it's got that like reflective rainbow kind of look on it. You get two discs, you get a Blu-ray, you get a 4K, and what's really cool about that, it's got that Man of Steel font that they would actually use for the 3 Batman movies that became before it. So I guess it's like the Nolan font. This film actually didn't have Dolby Vision on it. It had HDR10. The Blu-ray had originally come out in 2013, and the Blu-ray to the 4K is actually very close. There's not a really big gap between that Blu-ray and 4K. The 4K itself is actually not a straightforward 4K. It's just a 2K intermediate, so it's just upscaled to 4K. It was shot, I believe, in 2K with digital cameras, so you're not going to see a huge difference, and plus it's an early 4K at that, so the HDR that's put on it, you know, it's very selective. It's not like the biggest difference that you're ever going to see, because that Blu-ray is hitting deep blacks, high contrast rate, everything looks great on that Blu-ray. So jumping to the 4K, it's really just not that much of a difference. So if you do have the previous Blu-ray and you've been on the fence like, oh, should I get that 4K? You know, you could probably still hold on to that Blu-ray and be pretty happy with it. And that's one thing we always talk about here on the channel is older films, when they come to 4K, you'll see the biggest jump. They might not still look like the greatest films in comparison, because today's films are shot with modern cameras, so of course their 4Ks will look better, but bringing in an older film to 4K, that's when you're going to see the biggest jump. You're going to see the biggest improvement in the quality of the film and the audio itself. This film was shot only 10 years ago at this point. So the cameras, yes, they have improved. Everything has improved, but not like the biggest jump if you were going from like 2003 to 2013, where you're going to see a big jump when we switch from those old-fashioned digital cameras to the modern-day digital cameras that we got, where it was just a lot easier for them to adjust to the motions and everything like that, and just the way it would take color in and the way we can edit after the fact. It's much more easier now, so that Blu-ray to 4K difference, it's just not going to be that noticeable. Now, the audio is fantastic. That is still a great Dolby Atmos track on here. It's also a True HD 7.1, so whatever system you're using, it should support it, and man, it does a great job. job. Now, just be careful when you're selecting this in the menu system. This is something that Warner Brothers still does to this day for some reason. It doesn't give you a full detail of what audio track you are selecting. It's just going to say English, and then the next one's going to say English original audio, and then it's going to say French. So you're not going to get a breakdown of the audio track. So if you want to find all of that out, you'll have to go to his second website, unfortunately, because Warner Brothers, I guess they just really like to simplify their menu, and I know that most people aren't going through these menus looking for every single detail, but I have fun with that. And then all of your extras are going to be on that second Blu-ray disc, and there are some good ones on there. There's not really like a making of documentary, but there are some like half-hour, 25 minutes to a half-hour featurettes on here. One talking about Superman and just like what all of these actors had to do to get into these roles, how you got Michael Shannon into it, how Henry Cavill takes the role of Superman serious. That's why it's just so unfortunate that we're never going to see him don the cape again. Did he hit the highs of Christopher Reeves? No, absolutely not. Christopher Reeve is probably still the greatest Superman. He is the standard for Superman. He just embodied that character amazingly. Henry Cavill did a great job. The problem is we only got one solo Superman movie, and I felt like we rushed through his entire story, and then his next movie is just a combination movie with him and Batman. And I just felt like the problem was that DC wanted to play catch up with the MCU, and they originally just had no plans for it. Once they saw the MCU taking off, they said, oh, we got Superman, let's shove him into the DCEU and make this whole story go around him, but that's not what happened. Unfortunately, we all know what happened, and it kind of fell apart by the time we got to Justice League. Thankfully, we got Zack Snyder's Justice League a couple years ago, which is an epic conclusion to the story that he originally wanted to tell. But I just feel like they dropped the ball on what could have been an amazing Superman trilogy, an amazing Man of Steel trilogy. But I'm getting a little bit off topic here. We're here to talk about this 4K. And yeah, those extras are really good. There's just not many of them. It's very in line with what Warner Brothers still does with their extras. There's a few in there. There's even an extra for the Lord of the Rings Middle-earth, looking back at Peter Jackson, I guess, scouting for New Zealand. I didn't really dive into it, but I'm like, why would there be a Lord of the Rings extra on a Man of Steel 4K Blu-ray? And it didn't really make too much sense to me, unless, you know, it was 2013 when this Blu-ray came out, the original Blu-ray, and that's what this extras on. I'm guessing that was around the time they were filming the Hobbit film, so I guess they were trying to promote that. And I don't really like those Hobbit films, so you could have left that out of there for me. But overall, for an older 4K Blu-ray, it is still really, really nice. It still holds up. I can't imagine we'll ever get a better scan of this. Zack Snyder, you know, he's still making movies. I'm sure he doesn't want to go back and touch up Man of Steel, especially since we're never going to get Henry Cavill in the cape again, so it's a little bit disappointing, but it's still an amazing 4K. Like I said earlier in the regular review, you know, the colors, they were going for a flatter, cooler look to this, so the colors don't pop off your screen, but that's the intention of the filmmaker and the cinematographer. That was the point they were going for, so everything is supposed to look just a little bit flatter. You know, the colors just don't pop. Everything just looks cool and flat, and I think they did a good job with that. Zack Snyder definitely does have an eye. All of his films, all of them kind of just look unique and original, and, you know, he's going for a certain artistic style, and I think he nails it. Not everybody loves that, and I'm very hit or miss. It really just depends on the film. Like, I'm not a big fan of the cinematography in 300. It's just not my type of movie, but the way the cinematography is in this, I absolutely love it. Same thing with Watchmen. I love the cinematography in that. So, Zack Snyder, you know, he's hit or miss for a lot of people. I know some people don't like the tone of this movie, and some people do love the tone of this movie. So it's really up to the viewer. I personally dig the tone of this movie. I think it's a nice juxtaposition compared to the original Superman movies. You always will have those, and you always will have Man of Steel. So it just really depends on the day. So I could definitely highly recommend this 4K Blu-ray if by chance you haven't grabbed it yet. If I was going to rate this 4K Blu-ray on a scale of 1 to 10, including packaging, visuals, audio, and extras, I'm still going to give this a really solid 8.5 out of 10. I can recommend it. This goes on sale all the time. You'll have no problem getting it. It does also come in a set with all the other DC movies up to a certain point, so I think that's what Matt has. So if you want to grab that, it's still a great 4K in that format as well. No matter what, the disc itself is pretty damn solid. Your mileage may vary with the film. It depends how you feel about Man of Steel. Whether you love it, you hate it, or maybe you're indifferent to it and you just kind of can watch it every now and then. Whatever it may be, I could definitely recommend you grabbing this 4K Blu-ray to view it. But before we get out of here today, we also have a little bit of business to take care of, because it's our digital code giveaway. And on this past Friday's video, I asked you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. You answered in the comment section below, and as long as you did, your name was put on a magic wheel. I spun that bad boy 2 times, and the 2 names it lands on, they have their choice of the digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And this week I asked you guys, what was your favorite franchise and what was your favorite superhero to ever appear on film? And we got a lot of great answers in there, but I'd have to say Spider-Man was definitely the runaway as far as people's favorites, either Spider-Man or Batman. Obviously, the people picking Batman were speaking right to my heart. That's my choice. Batman has always been my favorite superhero pretty much since I was 3 years old and I saw Batman Forever. That was the one for me. And, you know, Spider-Man, I liked the Spider-Man movies. I was really into the first 2 Tobey Maguire movies. Then Spider-Man 3 really just... it nosedived for me, and I was really out on Spider-Man. Matt's favorite superhero, or second favorite superhero, Spider-Man, but he was never really it for me until we got to the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and then I really enjoyed those. And then Into the Spider-Verse, I still think is the best Spider-Man movie we've ever gotten, and on June 2nd, we're getting the sequel to that, so I'm super excited for that one. I'll be there day 1 for that. So, yeah, you guys all picked some great choices. Everyone, I really do appreciate everybody who entered into this digital code giveaway. If you don't win this week, please come back to this Friday's video. We do it all again. So we do this every single week. Don't feel too bad. You know, we can only pick 2 winners each week, and this wheel is starting to get really filled up. So these slices are getting pretty damn small, starting to look like a school party back when you were in the elementary school. So you're getting that very thin slice of pizza, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, I'll keep rambling. So let's spin this magic wheel and see who our 2 lucky winners are.
First wheel spin coming up. All right, Richard Thomas. Just going to remove you, Richard. Spin again.
Richard Thomas and John Ducharme, who I'm definitely pronouncing your last name wrong. I'm sorry about that. I did my best. And I believe this is both of you guys' first wins. Richard, I know this is the first time you've ever entered into our digital code giveaway. So since you're new, if you guys want to claim your digital code, just reach out to us at letstalkentmt@gmail.com. That is always the best way to reach us, or you can always hit us up on any of our social media feeds on either Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Direct message us there, and just let us know which of the digital codes you want. As long as the other winner didn't take them, that digital code is all yours. And again, I know I already said this, but thank you all so much for entering into our digital code giveaway. We really do appreciate all the support that you guys all give. And again, thank you so much for everyone who came to Saturday's live stream with me. I'm actually going to do that again this Saturday. I haven't picked the topic yet. I'll probably put a poll out today asking you guys what you want to talk about. Unfortunately, Matt won't be there again. Actually, Matt probably won't be there for a couple weeks because he is going to be going away on vacation. So it'll just be me, and we'll be pre-recording some stuff to cover him not being here. So this Saturday, it's just going to be me again. We'll probably do 2 o'clock again. So if you weren't able to make the last live stream, we'll do it again this week, and we'll just chat, talk all things movies. I had a lot of fun doing it. It went a lot smoother than I expected, and again, I appreciate you all so much. And if you want to keep supporting this channel, nothing supports the channel more than by you liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and then just going out in those streets and telling all your friends about us. We'll be seeing you around.